For the first time, what we do is look at the big stories making headlines right across your dailies and get some analysis on this and different angles to look at what this really means moving forward right here on the show. As always, we'll look at the front page of the PD as we start, and good news for you because the PD is making sure you can get yourself your People Daily straight to your phone wherever you are across this country. They're bringing convenience to a whole other level, and it only costs you 10 shillings, by the way. The number that you need for that is star 550 star 4 hash. Once again, the number star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. You don't need any mobile app for that on your phone. You don't need any data on your phone. That's how convenient it is. So once again, the number that you need to get your copy of your People Daily is star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. And right here, it really is a gift, as I say, that keeps on giving, because what you need to do is send us a copy of your downloaded PD from your phone. Take that screenshot, send it to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, and once you do that, I will send you 250 bob worth of airtime. So send us your name, send us your location, take that screenshot and send it to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, and you get yourself airtime. It's that simple. So to get that copy on your phone, what you need to do is dial the number star 550 star 4 hash. And as you get that copy on your phone, this is a headline that will greet you as you get it. Front page of the PD, man in eye of COVID-19 fundstorm. Dr. Mwenje has made headlines in the past for his exemplary public work. However, for his role in KEMSA, he has been branded incompetent by his boss and blamed for the multi-billion shilling corruption scandal within this particular agency. And right now, as you can see, it's really degenerating to a he said, she said scenario on this one. And that's the story, even as he feels the heat. He's since stepped aside on this one, but still there are more questions than answers as to how procurement took place right here. And that is front and center in your copy of your People Daily. You can find it on page 6 therein. Also on the PD's front page, why governors want the Senate dissolved. County bosses accuse senators of failing to pass the revenue allocation formula, stalling services in the regions, and fingers two committees for extortion attempts. That story is on page 2 of your People Daily today. Also in the PD, ODM claiming Obado is organizing violence. Of course, as we've seen earlier this week, ODM leadership spoke about the fact that they want to impeach Obado for his corruption allegations and marshaled members of the county assembly to move that in the assembly as well. But now the counter-claim talking about the fact that he could be organizing violence because of that particular move. And you can find that story on page 4 of your PD today therein. As you talk about that, of course, still keeping a keen eye as far as the COVID-19 numbers are concerned and following every single update that comes through. As of yesterday, the total caseload in the country standing at 34,705. You can get more details of that particular story in your copy of your People Daily as well. Let's move it along now to the front page of the Daily Nation. It's all about Ruto front and center. Ruto from power to opposition. That's what they're asking right here. What really happened to this man who they had said even on political campaigns and in the campaign trails it would be 10 for Uhuru, 10 for Ruto. Things have changed in the political landscape, really not the same. What happened right there? Raila seems to be more of an insider in the Uhuru administration than the number 2. Questions asked on that particular political formation, and you can find that story as well in your copy of your Daily Nation therein. Front page of your Standard now, showdown over Obado ouster plot, impeachment clash, they call it. Threats and coercions, claims rise fears of violence as Raila party insists on kicking out Migori governor from office, but county boss and his allies fight back. So this one really being a showdown in Migori, and who blinks first and who surrenders will be the question. You can get the details of that particular story on page 4 of your Standard today. Also on page 10 of the Standard, how top 6 tribes share the bulk of public jobs. 80% of public service positions are held by 6 communities, according to a report on ethnic and regional distribution of high-cadre jobs in the government. You can find the story on page 10 of your Standard therein. And as you look at that, the Standard also keeping a keen eye on what's happening with the COVID billions. KEMSA bosses expose their debt. Under pressure, agencies, board and management engage in a dramatic blame game over alleged procurement irregularities in this House probe. You can find that story as well in your copy of your Standard. That is on page 6 therein. Finally, from page of the Star this morning, EACC summons Morave over KEMSA scandal. Initial probe shows he's a signatory of Killig, a farm he has disowned severally on different platforms, but the papers at the registry tell a different story. Also talking about close to power, Kiraito wife, son, and ex-MP Reggae also to be questioned concerning this particular issue as well. And you can find that story in your copy of your Star this morning. So as you can see right now, the political formation still taking shape as we look at that. But also, how does this COVID-19 probe actually end? Do we get those culpable for the crime doing the time as well? We discuss that and plenty more as we get our analysis right here in studio. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. You can get me on the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, or also get me on Twitter at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Good morning and welcome to the Newspaper Review. Okay, welcome back. Let's get to studio. My panel in studio, Derek Otieno, he's an editor with the People Daily. Good morning, Derek. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Jeff.
Karibu sana.
Nice to be back.
Asante sana. Glad to have you on show. Also in studio, Mark Mwenje. He's an advocate of the High Court, joining us for a review this morning. Morning, Mark.
Morning, Jeff. Thank you for the invite.
Welcome. Asante sana. And joining the conversation via Skype is Ruth Ambogo. She's a youth policy analyst as well. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Let's just get right to it at this particular point in time. One big story that has been followed for the better part of this week, really, and this is the probe on the COVID-19 funds and the claims and the counterclaims being made by so many people. And the question begs, Derek, I'll start with you on this. Are we seeing a scenario where we'll have Dr. Manjari take the fall for the COVID sins of the country?
I think he's going to take the bullet, and already he's on his path to that dirty glory that follows people who mastermind some of the big scandals in this country. Already they have sacrificed him. They've told him to step aside. And I'm very sure that when the EACC troop into KEMSA, it will be a different ballgame for him, because he admittedly told us that somebody was calling him and asking him to award some contracts. And government protocol does not allow that at all. Unfortunately, we've had some senior and prominent businessmen called by fake numbers, allegedly from a senior politician in the country, to give somebody 10 million shillings. We've seen that. So somebody streetwise and scrupulous and savvy could just save his number as Kagwe and call Manjari to tell him to give a contract to somebody else. But
do you think that would be plausible? Because I'm sure they have spoken on the phone severally with the CS.
Yes.
Would Derek call him and he still thinks it's the CS?
I can send an SMS message, can I? Okay, that's one. And the dirty bit of it, and to me, is a moral behind the whole scandal. We are deep inside one of the biggest pandemics the world has seen in about 100 years. And then we can't manage something that forms part of the Big Four agenda, the universal health care. And Manjari, he's smart. If you've had a chat with him, he's a smart guy, clever and sharp in everything that he does, from dressing to talking to the expensive wares that he puts on himself. Then unfortunately he gets caught up in something that he should have been at the top of. So here we are. My issue is COVID. Whatever Manjari does with the contracts, with the call from Mochache Susan or from Kagwe Mutahi, I don't care, but the moral of the COVID-19 funds stolen is what hurts me. And
Mark,
you put it rightly.
Let me get Mark in on this one as well, because as we stand, it almost seems like the bigger the amount of money stolen from public coffers, the harder it is usually to find out where that money went. Let's take it back. Let's look at something like Chicken Gate, for example, with the IBC. Our legal system still can't make of what to do with this one, while those who are perpetrated for the same crime in the UK were found guilty, have done time, have been released, yet we haven't gotten to the bottom of that. when you look at this, where we are right now with COVID-19 and where we are, legally, do you think we get to the bottom of this, get the people, seize the assets, retrieve the money? How do you see this ends from a legal perspective?
You know, one of the most difficult cases that our system deals with is when it comes to economic crimes. And we've never perfected this system. We've tried. We have now the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority. Remember the Ringera one that existed there before. So we've been trying for a number of years, since the time President Kibaki took over and now. So when it comes to this kind of crimes where billions are lost, we've seen this script before. And unfortunately, we've got to be honest with one another. Some of the guys who are involved in some of these scandals are in the government. They're right there in the mix of it. So whatever the DPP or EACC are trying to do, these are the same guys who are involved and keep hampering the efforts that are the investigative efforts. And when we go to court, now this is the challenge that comes in, especially when you go to court, is that you have a DPP or EACC that decide we're going to go to court, this is the issue. And on paper, everything we're written here in the newspaper, you look at it and they say, oh, these people have stolen the money. It's clear cut. But in court, it doesn't work that way. In court, we deal with the facts and the evidence that are presented before the judges. So most of the times, at times you find the prosecution side is unable to put the case forward the way it should be. So you find their documents missing. You can see even in other stories where now the defendants are saying, oh, there's not been enough disclosure. Some of these documents are missing, A, B, C, and D. So what happens is that now the case goes for another mention, and before you know it, it gets frustrated. Unfortunately, this frustration could be caused by the fact that on the prosecution side has not prepared itself very well, because some of these matters are criminal matters. Especially criminal matters, you need to have your burden of proof right there. It's not like a civil matter where we've argued here and there, and there's maybe some contracts that we had here, somebody has violated a contract. Those are easier to deal. When it comes to such matters, you must be able to demonstrate that paper trail. For me, when I look at even what's happened here with Manjari, to me, I'm wondering, don't these people learn? Haven't they seen what other CEOs have gone through? We talk about Kenya Pipeline, we're talking about Chicken Gate, all those. So it's very unfortunate, and he's in for some trouble now. Right. My advice to him: get a good lawyer, prepare. Right. Because you'll be the fall guy. Right. Unfortunately, there are some guys who are involved who will get away with it, and as Derek has pointed out, it's so unfortunate it would happen during this kind of pandemic. So many people are out of work. Most businesses are shutting down, and then you see this kind of thing happening. It can be very disheartening. So to me, I would hope that this would be the main test, right. the main test of where our courts, EACC do their job. Get these guys, because this has happened in a very short span. When COVID kicked in until now, it's been a couple of months. Right, it's easy to zero in on this thing. This is the time to follow it up. Okay. You let it go, the trail goes cold, the courts start saying, look, now what do we do? Right. We've had Maraga once in a while, the CJ blaming the prosecution, saying, look, you guys come to court, but you're not prepared. You're not presenting the evidence as needed. So let's hope that this will be different. And because, Mark, they usually say the buck really stops at the president, if this trail goes cold and we don't get to the bottom of this, can we lay the blame squarely on Uhuru and tell them, this one, we saw clearly where it started and how it progressed. If there was ever a time you brought people to book, this was it. Clearly, you had no political will to fight corruption. The president has made it clear. Remember, I think a couple of years ago when he said, when it comes to corruption, it doesn't matter whether it's his brother, your best friend. You remember that whole statement he made? Yes. And we've got to hold him to that. We've got to hold the president to that. And it can't just be this. It's about all the cases that he has insisted that need to be prosecuted. Right. So Kenyans will look at this, eventually, and the president is the person who's been given the mandate. He heads the executive. He's the one who drives this country. So when it comes to fighting corruption, he's got to be the first one. Right. And the buck will stop with the president. he made a very strong statement regarding this issue, but that is a statement.
Right.
We'd want to see action taken.
Okay, backing those words. Let me get Ruth in on this conversation as well. Morning, Ruth. We are having a scenario where we are all looking at KEMSA and wondering how the procurement process worked, whether it was single source, direct sourcing. Many questions asked even on a company that's probably a month old, getting a tender for over 1 billion Kenya shillings. But in there lies all of this procurement discrepancies. And the thing is, as we've seen this week, it's not only unique to KEMSA. Very many state agencies aren't on FMIS, aren't on e-procurement up until now. Is this by design? Are we going to be seeing this then in every state agency? We're looking at KEMSA now, but chances are there's another agency elsewhere going deep in the same scandal that we're witnessing right now at KEMSA. Okay, I think there's a small issue with your audio, Ruth, on that side, as my technical team tries to sort that out on that one. Let me bring it back to studio. Derek, I'll ask you the same thing, because we've seen in the paper, as we look at KEMSA, and we're talking about how the whole issue of going on to e-procurement was to make sure this procurement system is pretty transparent, and we all know what's going on. But all agencies, very many of them, aren't on the e-procurement platforms.
Yeah, and I still wonder, as you told us, the buck stops with the president. It is the president of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who told us that every procurement by government has to be put on there's a procurement portal for government and most of its agencies, including parastatals. And it's bizarre that they did not know whom to buy from. You see, in most cases, you have to register in the portal, Jeff, and then in case of such an emergency, they know that so-and-so's company offers this, another company offers this. They just need to call them to tell them, kindly, can you supply us with this? Or they can give them the tender, if it means direct tendering. But here is a case where we are faced with a scenario where we don't know who does what and what time he does it. In any case, the president has tried so many times to get this thing, corruption, handled in a very straight manner. He sent so many procurement officers home. We don't know what happened to them, unless you guys know anything about what happened to them. There was another time he told us that even his own brother will be sent packing. And here is a case, and God forbid, I don't want to preempt it, one of his closest allies is being mentioned in the KEMSA deal, the Kilik deal. I don't know what will happen to him, because he's had some of his most trusted CS, Rotich, somebody they've worked with for so many years at Treasury, was done for the same thing. There is another CS collared for the same thing. And then he had to lose 5 CSs some time back. And I don't know what's going on in his mind right now as we speak, because he should be in a very tough situation.
And as you look at that, there's also the scenario where even as you look at the persons of interest as far as COVID-19 is concerned, it's now getting into what even the press is calling a blame game. KEMSA, CEO comes and says, no, it wasn't me, it was the CEO and the PS. CEO and PS, CS and PS come and say, no, it wasn't us. It's incompetence and corruption there. And it's clearly finger-pointing. Who takes the blame in this one? Should they stop at the CS? That's where the buck lies.
You see, picking up from what Derek was saying, the president talked about the procurement. But when it comes to procurement, we have an act that guides us on how to deal. And believe you me, that act has been debated in Parliament, discussed so many times. Now, are there issues with that act, especially when it comes to procurement? And especially in a case where now we're dealing with a pandemic and the emergencies, yes, maybe there's some tweaking back and forth. But the act is very clear. Now, here you have the head of, the director of procurement, rather. Is the guy who's got to know how all this is supposed to work. And when you start having cases of somebody saying, oh, I got pressure from the CS, and I think at some point we've had Dr. Manjari saying that at one point the director of procurement was not there, and they're the ones who had to approve. Now, you're breaking the law, what the law provides, because public procurement laws cannot provide for such a scenario where the MD comes and gets involved, and you have a director of procurement. So this blame game that they're trying to go through around it doesn't work. From a legal standpoint, it doesn't work. Everyone has got their role. You've got your job that you know that what you need to do. You've got the MD, you've got the director of procurement, whether the head of finance, whatever positions they've all got. And you've got the CS and the PS. Everyone has got their own job. No matter what phone calls that go back and forth, whatever pressure that might have been put on the other person. As we were saying before, government communicates through, you know, you need a memo, something written that goes for something you can implement. So this blame game that is going around, I don't think anybody is going to get away with it if we follow it strictly, because everyone has got their own role. And if you did not do what you are supposed to do, what you're employed to do, then you've got to, you know, take the blame for the mistake that has happened. So this is not going to work. This blame game, and I'm really hoping that, you know, the committee in Parliament that is listening, because all this information is coming out as we're listening to them. We can see what is happening. So we're just being taken round in circles. I really hope that they will see what's happening here. So it's everyone trying to say, this is the person who took, no, it's not me and all that. Everyone has to be held accountable.
As you look at this, there's the counter-argument right here, Derek, that even as we stand, not only should justice be done, it should also be seen to be done. And if your docket is full of scandals, especially during this pandemic, as CS Kagwe, just step aside for a moment, let investigations be done. If you're found innocent, you come back, take your duties and move on. Do you think that's what the CS should do at this point?
I think we have to look at it in two ways. We're in the middle of a pandemic right now. Of course, have we been able to ascertain that the CS is at fault? I don't think we are there yet. We're still trying to find where you know, who is to blame here.
But he's a person of interest. He's been thrown into the mix. So
if that is the case, and we get to a point where that it's confirmed that here's the CS, you have some questions to answer. This is going to be a distraction for him. He'll not be able to deal with the COVID pandemic. Common sense dictates, step aside. Let somebody else continue with the job as you handle these other issues. And you remember even the ruling from Justice Mombi, and even what you've been seeing, that when governors are caught, or anyone who's caught in, you know, some of these economic crimes, they're told to step aside. We even have our governor here in Nairobi, you have Obado, you remember in Kiambu as well. So they're all told step aside. It should apply the same way. So if we've determined, look, you are a person of interest, there's some questions you need to answer, and of course for the last couple of days, he's had to answer questions on this. His primary job should, as health CS, he'll start getting distracted by some of these issues. It would be prudent that you just step aside, let these investigations happen. As I said before, this issue has happened in a couple of months. It can be very easy to investigate. It's not like those other issues where we start hearing of Aurora Kimorel, and it's an issue that started back in 2016 or 2017, and then it comes out this year. So it takes so long. The paper trail has gone cold. This one is still hot. Let's be honest with each other.
Derek, you wanted to...
I just wanted to, from a legal point of view, this gentleman stepped in to perform a duty of somebody junior to him. He said the guy was incapacitated, was not around, but then he decided to do it. But I think we have demarcations in every duty we have in this country. And back to what Jeff was saying is that Kagwe, for whatever good speeches he makes on the doorstep of Afia House, I think he has to take that political responsibility in this particular one.
Do you think he should step aside?
He should.
Even at this point, there's
he
enough
should.
for
Actually,
him to step aside.
me, the person following Manjari out of Kemsa should be Kagwe, and he tags along Mochache, so that we have an independent, unbridled investigation. There is no way you are investigating Ministry of Health when the principal accounting officer is on duty. He can stumble on anything, but then something should happen to Kagwe and Mochache, and I believe if they have moral conscience, they should do so today.
Right. And there's also the question of the board in this particular point of view. Kembi Gatora also hard-pressed as to what really happened in there. So many questions. Should you also review them as well? Because even in terms of the board, they're not directly operational in the day-to-day, but they do give oversight. And if this happens under your watch, you have some form of culpability as well. Should they also be going out, tender the resignations from the board, clean sweep and start afresh?
You know, when it comes to the board, that's easier said than done, because the board, as you've rightly said, the board they're not involved in the day-to-day running of the institution, but they formulate the policies. Now, if we believe that some of the policies that they set forth have an issue, of course they've got to go. And the fact that we've seen now the chairman who's coming, and there's some questions being raised, especially with remarks to you overshot the amount that was allocated to you, then the board obviously is involved.
Right.
With the board, it's very easy. You just degazette them immediately,
right,
and we start having them investigated.
Right.
Put a new board and start, because KEMSA is very critical in this fight, COVID. You know, we don't have time to say, can we just stop? Let's have a look. They've got to continue functioning.
Okay, okay.
They've got to continue functioning. So if the board has an issue, and for me right now, especially when it comes to KEMSA, we need a sweep. We need to sweep all these guys, put them aside, and tell them, you can come back later, but let's put in some new interim guys, let them run the institution, and try and sort this mess.
Okay, okay, that we are. Okay, fine. We'll take a short break at that particular point in time. We want your feedback as well. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV as we discuss the big issues of the day. We're also taking winners, by the way. I could give you 250 shillings worth of airtime, and all you need to do is download your copy of Your People Daily to your phone. It's only 10 shillings. You download it by dialing the number *550 *4#. Download that copy, take the screenshot on your phone, send it to me with your name and number, and I just send you the airtime. It's that simple. We have a couple of winners already. Okay, let's have them up. Let's see who's there. As far as our winners are concerned, we have a couple of winners, of course, courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. Let's have them right there. Alvin Khalid enjoying the show from Vihiga. Well, Alvin, you get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. We have another winner. Let's have them up. Korir from Kericho, there with their e-copy of the PD. They get themselves 250 shillings worth of airtime. We have one more before we get to the break. Hosea Korir from Kapsabet as well. So all three of them getting themselves 250 shillings worth of airtime, all courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. More airtime to give out, by the way. It could be you. So download your copy by dialing the number *550 *4#. Get that copy on your phone. Take the screenshot, send it to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, and I send you airtime. Back with more after the break.